People often ask me, Benji, what's your story? How did you get into this barefoot shoes? And it's a really good question. January 1st, 2015, I think it was 2015. It's been a while. January 1st, 2015, I had spent New Year's Eve on the side of a mountain with some friends. We went backpacking up there. It was like 3 feet of snow. It was the best. I love backpacking. And just spending New Year's Eve with friends up on the side of a mountain was my ideal New Year's Eve. Hiking down the next morning, the trail had really frozen over, and there were loads of ice. This was back in the day when I wore nice, thick, heavy hiking shoes and such. And my feet, I didn't have crampons. I hadn't brought my crampons on that camp out. And I slipped on the ice multiple times hiking down, and I had like a 50-pound pack on with all my winter gear to spend sub-zero temperatures that night. And I hyperextended both knees over that course of that hike really bad. I was hobbling. I was in a lot of pain hobbling, trying to just crawl my way home before I got back to the car. And over the course of the next few weeks and months, my knees didn't get better. It just got worse. As I would go running, as I would try and do more hiking, my knees would just start hurting so bad. It was crippling. In fact, there were times I remember I was walking, there were a number of times like this. I'd be walking and my knees would start hurting so bad that it would just drop out from under me. One of my knees would just give out and I would just be on the ground just like, I can't go anywhere. My knees hurt too bad. Growing up, I always had flat feet. My parents got me a set of orthotics when I was a kid, trying to help me do better, and they were okay, but I think they increased my problems, honestly. And I'd regularly twist my ankles and hurting my knees, and my hips would often hurt if I did too much work. It was a pain just trying to live. So I ended up visiting a physical therapist, trying to find the solution to my knees hurting so bad. I wanted to get back to running. I wanted to get back to life. And my physical therapist, he's a great guy. I loved him. He recommended a bunch of exercises actually to strengthen my knees and my legs, and he also prescribed that I should start strengthening my arches. I could either look into orthotics or do some exercises, some toe curling exercises, or rubbing that ball just like I showed you. He recommended like rubbing a ball across my feet and just do some toe curling exercises to strengthen my body. And it was amazing. It really started helping. However, as I continued to wear my knee braces, as I continued to try and do this exercises, I started looking into orthotics, and I found this counterculture called barefootism. It was mind-blowing to find barefootism. And these guys would be talking about the problems of orthotics is that we'd put this splint on our feet. It's like putting a cast around our foot to say this is the perfect foot shape, which it's not far from it, but it's so rigid it doesn't allow any flexation, and it also just keeps throwing all the shock because we're heel striking. It's throwing all the shock up our knees and our hips and our back, and it would just wreck you. And there were so many other people like me that were having these problems, that were having hurt knees, twisting their ankles regularly, having back pain, and having hurt hips, that or plantar fasciitis even, where the tendons in their very feet, every time they step, would just send shock waves of pain because they just weren't strong enough to hold your foot up. And I realized orthotics weren't the answer, but that my foot exercises and by strengthening my feet, that was the best thing I could do for my body. And I discovered this thing called proprioception, where our feet can feel the ground underneath us. And it's true. Just like our fingers and our hands feel the stuff, if we rub it on the ground, we feel it. Our feet felt it. Our feet feel our feet feel the ground underneath us too. With their proprioception. So I started training barefoot, and it was painful. It was hard, but I found as I walked on my toes, as I ran on my toes, my knees stopped hurting. I could run on my toes and my knees wouldn't hurt. I could run on my toes and my back wouldn't hurt. It was exercises. My back, the muscles in my back had to grow stronger, but my back didn't hurt. It wasn't just throwing my back out. As I ran, my knees weren't hurting. I could run longer distances because my knees were no longer hurting. My feet would hurt just a bit because I had to still build up those calluses. But I can build calluses. I can do conditioning. I can strengthen my body. So long as I don't have crippling long-term chronic pain. And that's the beauty of going barefoot, guys, is by going barefoot, by doing this exercises like I've shown you, by following all my tips and techniques and tricks, you are going to strengthen your body so well that you're not going to live in crippling pain. In fact, your life is just going to be so much happier. The feeling of grass underneath your toes puts a smile even still on my face.